Now, as a man in his early, yes they are, 30s, it will surprise none of you to hear that I like the Beastie Boys, because of course when I was growing up they spoke to me as a tearaway, youthful, you can't tell me not to party mom kind of guy. And I like how they put the music together, I like how the stuff sounds, I like how it is rock and it is rap, but it's never rock/rap, if you know what I mean. I think they are some of the most talented lyricists that have ever graced the fine streets of Brooklyn. Their songs invented entire new genres and redefined the ones along the way. But that being said, Triple Trouble might honestly be one of the worst songs I have ever heard in my entire life. It sounds like three rapscallions have been introduced to Sesame Street and they're trying to do like a song to get over how mischievous they are and how you'll never get me, Big Bird. Lyrically, it's just so lame, and you can tell they don't really care about it because they keep doing impressions in the middle of it, which, as we all know, Adam Wilborn, is the lowest form of all comedy. It's just so lazy and half-arsed and so un-Beastie Boys. It sounds like you and your two dumbest mates trying to do a Beastie Boys track, and yet it wasn't only just a Beastie Boys track, they released it as a single. The same band that did Sabotage, the same band that did Intergalactic, the same band that did loads of Beastie Boys songs you've probably never heard of, they did Triple Trouble. Like, Check It Out is also really bad, but Triple Trouble is the worst one. And they used the same sample. They used literally Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight, which, no, a crime against both themselves and music. That, hated it.
Questions like this are quite difficult because I don't think I hate legitimately a lot of music, because at the end of the day it's like, well, this stuff that I'm maybe not into, it's just not designed for people like me. It's not catered to people with my taste. So to say I hate it is just kind of an extreme reaction. The only like music that I genuinely hate would be the one that, you know, conveys bigoted messages or whatever. But you know, artists like that, you don't even give them the publicity by mentioning them on the videos like this. So I had to think quite tough about this one, man. But one song I always skip when I listen to this artist, and this is one of my favorite bands, you know, from my teenage years up to the present day, Deftones, Back to School. What this song is imagine a pristine pony, a white pony if you will. You got this lovely little pet pony, and one day you just decide to get your little tattoo pen thing out and put a weird picture of like a space frog toad thing on its face. Total blemish, right? But if you look at the pony from the left, you can't see it, but then you come around the corner, oh, there it is. It doesn't totally ruin the whole thing, but it's just a really ugly mark. Now, Deftones for me are this band who come out of the new metal era, and they certainly borrow a lot of things. They share a lot of common ground with a lot of bands from that era in terms of the down-tuned riffs and various other things. Chino rapping, of course, on various songs, but the sound was always a lot broader, it was a lot more expansive. They did such a great job of mixing different tones and textures and timbres in their music. The guitar work, Steph Carpenter's ridiculous. Chino's vocals, obviously a master of going from soft, almost whispered, angelic stuff to screaming from the back of his throat. But this song is just the most baseline rap metal, new metal, cliched. And I know, right, the record label said, hey, give us a single. Go and record a single that we can sell, and it's a bit contentious, and they're not too fond of the song themselves and all that stuff. But when you get that version of White Pony and it has Back to School, this weird version of Pink Maggot sitting at the front, it's not a pleasant time, is it, lads? I press skip every single time, and I'm not totally averse to their other rap elements. I mean, the Head Up is great, right? And they got some other ones like Elite as well, great songs, but Back to School, it's just not for me. And again, hate is a very strong word, but I kind of hate it.
Okay, so I've got a confession to make. I am a Green Day apologist. I am a big fan, even though I don't listen to them much anymore, and they defined who I was growing up, and because of that, I give them a lot of leeway. I am one of perhaps the only people in the world, or certainly only one of a handful of people who really likes Unos Dos Tres, the triple album that they released like at around 2011 and 2012. I am a big fan of a lot of the tracks on there, even though it is a very middling effort. I can see why a lot of people don't. It's very much quantity over quality. So I don't mind Kill the DJ. I don't even mind Nightlife. Like, it's fine, it's okay, it's not too bad. But they recently released a new album called Father of All, back earlier this year actually, and for me, this was a step too far. I actually quite liked the singles off this record. I thought they were, they were obviously very different, but I thought they were done with enough kind of, passion and flair that I let them get away with it, because as long as Green Day cares about what they're doing, I think it's mostly fine, even if some of them aren't the best ideas. But there is one track on this album called Stab You in the Heart that is annoying, not because of just how cliche and trite it is, but because of how lazy it is. This track recycles riffs from previous Green Day songs, which is a kind of a major thing that late period Green Day does. Like, it just lifts lines or melodies or guitar riffs especially, like you won't notice them, and it's not done in a kind of knowing homage way. It's just done because apparently they get out of ideas and they've done so much that they just repeat themselves. So this at one point just steals the riff from F-Time. I can't say the full title of the song, but the song that was also a Foxborough Hot Tub song and was on Dowse, the second part of their trilogy, and they repeat that riff, and they also more or less kind of lift the melody from Achy Breaky Heart and speed it up. It is just, I don't know what they were doing, man. Like, this album, for the most part, yeah, Green Day, they're getting on a bit. They're not as cool as they were, but they had something to them, especially on Revolution Radio, which was self-produced. Like, a lot of people don't love that record, but it's very much Green Day through and through. And for me, a lot of the tracks on this LP just feel like Green Day trying to be younger than they are, or cooler than they are, or hipper than they are, and they're just taking this kind of 60s punky, almost rockabilly at times sound, and just making the most generic tracks out of it, which is a shame and doesn't come through more than on Stab You in the Heart, which I just can't enjoy for the life of me, not even in a tongue-in-cheek way like I do Kill the DJ or Nightlife. And a lot of people probably think they're worse songs, but not for me, especially in the context of this album especially. It's just like this album is so short, it's got such a sparse track list, and this is one of the things you put on there. This should be like a B-side, this should be a side band endeavor. I don't know why it's there, I don't know why they're putting it in when it's so devoid of creativity and so rote. And I love you, Green Day, but even for me, this track is a step too far. The Nightlife apologist. Can't believe I'm saying this.
There's obviously going to be some songs out there what you dislike from bands that you love, and one example for me has to be Use Somebody by Kings of Leon, because however many times I listen to that song, it's always going to be an X Factor audition song or the song off the adverts. And I love Kings of Leon. I loved all of their early albums, like Because of the Times, Youth, Young and Manhood. Stellar albums with Molly's Chambers, Four Kicks, really, really good songs. But something about Use Somebody off of the Only by Night album just does not sit well with me anymore, and it's really a shame because it has tarnished my opinion on the band. They've released really, really, really good stuff since, like Mechanical Bull and Walls, which, I mean, there was another album come around Sundown, but that doesn't really count, whatever. But Use Somebody by Kings of Leon was really not to my taste. And also, why not throw in the Green Day song, every single one after 21st Century Breakdown, as being songs that I dislike very, very much, because...
Right, so a song I hate by a band I love is kind of more emblematic of an album I hate by a band I love, which is Pink Lemonade by Closure in Moscow. Now, it's not a bad song, it's not a bad album, but it just does not sit with me well because I loved First Temple so much, which is their first studio album. It's a great album. It's kind of like this post-hardcore, frenetic energy kind of sounding thing. It's amazing. I loved that album, and it was on my rotation all the time. It's one of those ones that's still on my rotation now. A Night to the Spleen is one of my all-time favourite songs ever. As goofy sounding as it is, I love it. And I kind of grew up with it, and not many of my friends were into them or really listened to them or knew much about them, so it felt like my special band that I used to listen to. So learning they were going to do a new album after First Temple, which was Pink Lemonade, I was especially excited because I was like, hey, more of this good stuff, that is all mine. And I was just incredibly up for hearing more for them. And it rolled around, and like I say, it's not a bad song, it's not a bad album, but I put it on and it wasn't the same sound. Like, they'd grown, they'd experimented, they'd branched out into more prog rocky, avant-garde roots, and that's fine, that's good, they can do them. But it just broke my heart a bit because I was so ready to have Pink Lemonade as the new bop. And I want to listen to it before this just to kind of see if I could get into it a bit more if I really didn't like it that much. But it's just, I don't. The style of their music with the kind of like off-key singing sometimes and like weird jazzy bits that they kind of throw in and all this like scale all over the place stuff. It just sounds messy to me in this, whereas in the other one it sounded like this nuanced, complex, layered thing. It might just be that I grew out of it, it might just be that, and the old album's like nostalgic for me and this doesn't sit right. Again, I don't think it's bad. I think they did a good thing by growing their sound, because everyone should do that, everyone does that, everyone moves and grows. But I stayed the same, and I wanted First Temple times 2, and I didn't get it. And Pink Lemonade is the song that just eclipses that for me, and I go, what could have been? What could have been? A Night at the Spleen.
So, a song that you hate by a band you love. My mind goes to one place and one place only, because I love Metallica. I've even got them etched into my skin, but it's the song that they did with Ja Rule. It's just, oh god, if you want to see what Dying Inside looks like in visual form, watch the making of that track. It's Swizz Beatz, who, with a Z obviously, come in and they sit down with Bob Rock. Bob Rock's the guy that Metallica got in on the Black Album, the guy that used to produce Bon Jovi's albums, and he came in and obviously, blew up Metallica's career. All of a sudden they were all over the radio. Black Album, Enter Sandman, and they're away. Bob Rock stayed with them for years, even throughout the St. Anger stuff, even when Metallica were completely imploding. But during that time period when they were so unsure of themselves and Hetfield was in and out of rehab and the band were just, they were finally addressing the fact that they were all really kind of still grieving for Cliff, and they were finally sort of maturing. That awkward period is right when Swizz Beatz walked through the door and said, why don't we do a rap song with Ja Rule? And it's for the Biker Boys soundtrack, which Biker Boys is a motorcycle-based Fast and the Furious ripoff, which I totally recommend, because there's one bit, I might be getting that movie mixed up with Talk, but I'm sure there's one bit in that movie where two bikes go on their hind legs, on their back wheels, and have like a duel, like sort of like a bike duel. That might be in Talk, watch Talk. It's really good, but the Ja Rule Metallica thing, it's horrible, as the French say, and it's just at the very beginning when it's just the song wasn't even composed with all of them there. Swizz Beatz walked into the room, talked to Bob Rock, who has a nice big grandad jumper on, and all Bob Rock does in the making of is like, well, we've got some leftover stuff from the St. Anger sessions, we've got Hetfield going yeah or whatever, we can put that underneath the beats that you've brought in, and Swizz Beatz are like, cool, we'll ring Ja Rule and we'll get him to sort of fly his stuff over as well, and it's just the most punch-kicked, skeletal thing, bolted together song that you've ever heard, and as soon as you start listening to it, you can tell it's mixed horribly, and the idea behind it was just, someone said we should get Metallica and Ja Rule together to be on this Biker Boys soundtrack. I think Lawrence Fishburne's in that. And it's just abysmal, so it's not even worth listening to in a funny way, which they've done twice now because the Lou Reed album was complete bleeding toss as well. But yeah, Metallica, I love how much they do their own thing, I completely champion it, but sometimes it will be shit.